Today I'm showing you how to make a no-hassle smoked mead at home. Let's get started. So I've been enamored by the idea of making a smoked mead for quite some time. My buddy BC has done it before, where he actually took honey, put it in a smoker, and smoked it like you would meat or something else. I've also heard of other people do that, of course. There's lots of people who've done that. There are different kinds of beer styles that include smoke in some form or fashion. I've even entertained the idea of using liquid smoke. I've never actually done it though. In all of my idea testing, I was thinking, well, I don't have a smoker at home, so I want to do this without a smoker or trying to figure out some crazy method of actually burning wood, using the smoke onto some honey. So what I discovered after trying a Rausch beer, I found out, of course, there are smoked malts. So the way we're achieving our smoke flavor today is coming from smoked malt. Now, specifically, we are using cherry smoked malt, and we are following this recipe you see on screen. So this is my recipe card. I'm doing a smoked peach mead. Now, a lot of people have already seen that and went, wow, that's stupid. That's gonna taste terrible. And I'm gonna tell you, it tastes really good actually. So anyways, so what I did was I found this cherry smoked malt at my local brew shop. You can get it online, of course, if you'd like to do that. It is malt that's literally just been smoked. So that flavor will be imparted within the brew we're making. On the recipe card, you see the use of that smoked malt. This is on a 1 gallon scale. And you're going to mash it. This means after you buy the malt itself, you need to make sure and get the grain milled or mill it yourself so it's crushed up. And this is kind of like a beer-ish idea, because in beer brewing, we go through a mash, which is where you take your grains and you put them in the hot water for X amount of time and whatever temp you need. We do that with this specific recipe. We also hit up the other ideas of mead making, where you are taking and adding your honey, of course. Because this is a peach mead, we use peaches, obviously. And later on, we're gonna use some peach nectar or juice, as well as more honey. I am using a very clean, neutral yeast for beer, the Safo USO5. It's a very good one for also mead making in this circumstance. Today's video is sponsored by ZBiotics. ZBiotics is a probiotic drink you consume before your alcoholic drinks. If you've ever gone out, drank your alcoholic drinks and not had a great morning after your night of drinking, that's because there's a byproduct called acetaldehyde that comes with drinking. Our bodies can't do anything with that. Therefore, the solution for this is ZBiotics. These little vials, you drink this before you go out and drink your alcoholic drinks. It does something with the acetaldehyde, which our bodies can't do anything with, and it helps you have a better morning after drinking. You still need to drink regular water and do all of those things, but it will help aid in your mornings after your nights of drinking. If you'd like to get 15% off your first order, scan that QR code, check out the link, and thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring this video. So to start our brew, we're gonna go ahead and collect all those ingredients. We're gonna get our grain and we're gonna mill it. And you can do this in a brew in a bag style, where you put it in a bag and then you do it in like a pot of water. The way I did it was actually with a nicer system, but you can do this with a brew in a bag style. It's very simple. You get your milled grain, you get your water up to 151 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're gonna go ahead and add in your grain. You wanna make sure it's stirred up well and that everything's moist, and it's gonna mash for an hour. Now, that's not a lot of grain, and that's on purpose. There's not a lot of need for grain in this, because that malt is not intended to add flavor as much as it is to more so to add, hopefully, that smoke character. And it does, I can say with confidence. So after you've mashed your grains, you're gonna pull them out of the brew. And now we get to add our honey, and we're gonna go ahead and wait on the peaches, and I'll talk about that in a second. So you add your honey to this brew, then you're also gonna add your yeast once it's all cooled down, and some yeast nutrient. You can use a staggered schedule if you'd like to do that, or all up front. Regardless of what you choose, just make sure and add some yeast nutrient. So we add our nutrient, our yeast, our honey, we mix it all up. Your starting gravity is probably roughly around 1.110. If I was giving a guesstimate for you, mine was about that. Now, part of this is the peach component. I used fresh peaches. I went ahead and bought lots of pounds of fresh peach, and then I chopped them up, de-pitted it, de-skinned as well, so it didn't have any of the skins, and we froze it. We're not gonna add the peaches because they're more of a delicate flavor until later on. So I let this brew ferment for probably about a week, and then I added my peaches. I did this because a lot of the really nice flavors from peach are in those aromas, of course the sugars. We hope that through adding them later, we lose less of the peach flavor. So add your peaches later and it will get hopefully some more flavor. After you've added your peaches, there'll be some more fermentation, and that's okay. This has also roughly changed the sugar content there. I don't know exactly how much, so yes, we've affected the ABV, but we're gonna talk about affecting it even more here in a second. So from here, what we did was let it ferment, added our peaches. We came back about a week and a half later after adding the peaches and racked it into a new container. Our gravity, or specific gravity after fermentation, was roughly about 1.005, if I remember correctly. This is the point where you get to stabilize or pasteurize if you want to do this later. So I wanted to back sweeten this thing and add some peach nectar or peach juice to this brew because the peach flavor did get zapped pretty well. So adding some more helps with this. So what we did is we stabilized, we used potassium sorbate and metabisulfite, and then we waited 24 hours and we started adding in honey to back sweeten. We also added some citric and malic acid to give a little bit of brightness, and our peach nectar. Now this peach nectar is from Jumex, which is a company that does lots of different ones, works really well. We added a fair amount, honestly, for how much, 1 gallon, we added about 24 ounces per gallon of this nectar, and that's a lot. That greatly affects your ABV. Because this went from 1.110 to 1.005, we're looking at about a 13.5%. After we've added that peach nectar, we've diluted slightly, and here's the ABV after plugging into a calculator of what it's at. So it's gonna come down a little bit, and that's okay. So we've added all those flavors. It might be a little bit unclear, so you will probably have to force clear it or let it age for a while. You should not see any more fermentation at this point though. Let's say you didn't use the stabilizers, potassium metabisulfite and potassium sorbate, you would go ahead and add in your honey, your peach juice or nectar, and your citric and malic acid, and then you would pasteurize the whole thing because you'd want to kill the fermentation or everything in there after you add those things. We let it sit for a while, it clears up some, and then we went ahead and we put it into a keg. Now I wanted to do something extra with this. You could leave it as a still mead, which is totally fine. It tastes very good still. I wanted to actually put a little bit of carbonation on this. So I put it into a keg, and I did a test batch of this, by the way, so I knew kind of how it would go. And we lightly carbonated it, just ever so that it would have a little bit of sparkle, a little more brightness into it, and that would help the peach flavor. Of course, again, you can leave it still and it tastes just fine as well. So now we've heard about this, we've talked about it. Let's go ahead and pour some off the keg and taste it. All right, here it is. Look at that. You can't really see a lot of bubbles because again, this is more so petulant. It's ever so slightly there, but this brew is ready. So now the question I think everybody's probably asking is, will that cherry smoked malt prevail, that flavor prevail through all of the other characters? So let's go ahead and try it. You don't have to use cherry smoked malt. There's a bunch of other smoked malts out there. I just found that one and thought it was interesting. And again, the hope is not necessarily to get a lot of the cherry flavor from it, but more so the smoke pop through. So there is definitely a richness, the darkness that feels like smoke. The peach and that flavor is also there. It's got this brightness and the honey's kind of muddled within that. With this being cold, because it's cold, it's gonna have a little harder time getting a nose out of it, in my opinion. But definitely a very interesting and fun nose. Let's taste it. That little bit of carbonation adds a little bit of refreshing side. Of course, it's cold, helps as well. The peach is immediately what I pop through. I get this really nice peach flavor. And it is what some people would say is like, the peach flavor is not real. This tastes like real peach, even though we used a juice. This brew at this moment is about 3 or 4 months old. I do think the smoke flavor has diminished quite a bit because month 1, it was like way up here, really bright, really strong smoke flavor. And now we're kind of dipping down later on, but it's more so on the back of the palate. There is that dark note that is there. And then at the very end, you kind of think of it as smoke. But even in the middle, there is this richness that's really interesting. Does that mean that maybe more smoked malt in the beginning would be helpful for longevity? I think so. You just also have to know that it might start off really hot as far as smoke, and then it comes down to a normal level. So I personally like where it's at. I think the peach is really interesting. The honey is super good as well. There's that rich floral note that's in there. There's a lot of complexity to this thing. The citric and malic acid that I added really helps to brighten up the brew, including the carbonic acid. So overall, I really like this thing. Can kill this whole glass. And it's a Saturday, so I might just do that. So the thing is, this smoked malt does work to add smoke flavor without having to do extra steps of buying a smoker and cold smoking or doing something like that with your honey. If you can do that, absolutely go for it. I don't have the ability to, nor did I really want to buy all the stuff to do so. So my recommendation, if you want to do this on the cheaper side, a couple ounces of smoked malt is not a lot. In fact, you could get it at your local brew shop for a pretty cheap amount. Give this a shot with maybe some other flavors. Smoked peach is really interesting. See what else you can come up with. I have sent this off to some competitions, and I'll share all the scores. I know one competition specifically gave it a 31 or 32, and the judges' notes on it weren't very helpful, honestly. So I'm not really leaning heavily on that one because I don't think the judges knew much about how to drink this drink. And I've sent it off to one that is actually supposed to announce today, and I don't know how it's gonna do. So there's some results you can see. Do those results from 2 judges mean everything? No, but it's some information. Someone else has tasted it and you can get some thoughts. So I think it's good. At the end of the day, I'm gonna brew for myself, for my friends, and if something does well somewhere, that's great, but I'm not gonna hang my hat on the opinion of 2 people that don't know me, don't care about me at all. I'm gonna lean into what my friends think and making them happy. So check out that recipe card. It's up here again. Here's a timeline as well. I'll try to throw that up. So if you would like to make this, the timeline's roughly like this, but it's really fun, really interesting. I'd love to hear if anyone else has done this because of course, I love getting to share the experiences with you guys. So I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you'll try this yourself, hit subscribe, and thank you to all my patrons and my YouTube members who constantly support me in the channel. You guys are what make this channel continue to run, and I appreciate you. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.